24. Haxi is here as well. She's talking about the international papers for us. Venezuela, you're starting off with Haxi. Hundreds of thousands of demonstrators taking to the streets to voice their anger against President Nicolas Maduro.
Absolutely, they did. Venezuelans slam president, reads this headline in the Wall Street Journal. We read that streets across the country filled with Venezuelans demanding a recall referendum against Maduro and to denounce the government's growing authoritarianism. That's a quote. We read that in Caracas, demonstrators blocked the main motorway in the capital, chanting no to dictatorship, yes to democracy. This article reports that many were surprised at just how many people took part in these demonstrations. They even managed to take over the city's Iron Square, which is traditionally a pro-government rallying spot. Government supporters, it's worth saying, are calling the opposition movement an attempt to carry out a coup.
Perhaps not surprisingly, this is the big story, of course, dominating the Venezuelan press.
Yes, unsurprisingly. El Universal is carrying a report that 12 South American countries, including Brazil, Argentina and Uruguay, have come together to express their concern at the political crisis currently engulfing the country. They've released a joint statement urging the government and opposition groups to engage in dialogue in order to ensure that the rule of law is upheld. But another paper doesn't have particularly high hopes for that actually happening. El Nacional's article is entitled An Unlikely Meeting. The anti-government paper insists that dialogue between what it calls the dictatorial Maduro regime and leaders of the democratic opposition is impossible. This piece sees no clear way forward as long as Maduro and his allies, people described in this editorial as robbers of the public purse, are in charge.
Now, you found an interesting piece, haven't you, in the Madrid-based daily El Mundo.
Yes, this paper has an interesting analysis of the role played by General Miguel Rodriguez Torres in Venezuela right now. The man is widely known to have been Hugo Chávez's favourite general, and he's come out swinging against Chávez's successor, Nicolas Maduro. He's quoted as warning that closing the door on democracy simply opens another door to violence. This article depicts the general as a very important figure for those desperate to get rid of Maduro. You see the two there. His political and ideological clout have legitimised the protesters' claim that the current president is betraying the true nature of Chavismo.
Something completely different now. Central Italy been hit with yet another powerful earthquake, hasn't it?
It has. Let's start with a rather shocking account of last night's earthquake published in La Corriere della Sera. This piece quotes the mayor of Usita, a town near the epicentre of the quake, as saying that the land split, that it was an apocalyptic scene. He says it was the worst earthquake he'd ever experienced. This piece describes a mixture of fear and anger among Italians who, let's not forget, lost almost 300 people in a devastating earthquake just last August. We hear that an old couple were rescued from their collapsed home and that church facades have crumbled. Hundreds of people, we read, chose to spend the night in the streets or in their cars, afraid of any possible further tremors.
Incredible, no one was killed, really. And why now, Haxi?
The Italian press is, rather unsurprisingly, full of theories as to why this earthquake happened, where it did and when it did. Let's go back to La Corriere della Sera for a second and an article entitled Why Another Earthquake After August's. It puts forward the theory that last night's quake could be the result of the activation of a new fault line that may also have been linked to August's disaster. There's also, we read here, the possibility that August's activity caused pressure to build up throughout the seismic region, and that what we saw last night was a release of that tension. Let's just take a quick look at some of the images coming out of the country since last night. These are published in Repubblica. Here we see a crumbling building in the town of Visso just after dark. And there's also another picture taken in Camerina where the entire side of a building, you can see it there, has fallen into the street. Of course, after August's earthquake, and that huge loss of life, many questions were being asked about shoddy building techniques and industry corner cutting, and no doubt there'll be similar questions this time round.
Thank you, Haxi. Haxi Mayers-Balkin with the international papers on France 24.